So you're looking to buy a property in Australia's hotly contested property market. You're going to house inspections, you're speaking to your bank as to how much you can borrow, and you've been saving up for months. And here you are, you're about to pay the deposit and you think to yourself, hold on, have I gotten legal advice for this yet? I'm about to make the biggest purchase of my life and maybe I should get a lawyer to check over my contract. Now that's probably a good idea because there are some major things that could go wrong with a property transaction. So I'm about to break down 3 major mistakes I see people make when they're purchasing property. Hi, my name's Hayder Shakara. I'm an Australian lawyer. I lead a team of over 40 lawyers across the country. And every day we're helping Australians with their legal matters. Now, in terms of property purchases, it can be sometimes one of the happiest moments in your life, but things can quickly turn around if you're not properly prepared. So here's mistake number 1 that I see: not fully understanding what is included in the contract. Now, you'd be surprised how many times you get into disputes and arguments about whether or not your dishwasher, your microwave, your light fittings are actually included when you purchase a property. To some people, it might sound obvious, but everyone's got a different idea as to what's included into a property. For example, we've had cases where there's been arguments on the day of settlement as to whether or not a dishwasher was included in the sale. Now, I guarantee 50% of people watching are thinking, of course it should be included in the sale. It's part of the property. It's built into the kitchen. And another 50% of people are probably thinking, no, I can take it out easily. That's my dishwasher. I purchased it. I didn't think that I was going to leave it in the house. I'm going to take it with me. So this can apply to a whole range of different things. It can be dishwashers. It can be microwaves. We're talking about sheds, I think is also a common one. Should a shed be kept on the property once it's being sold? It also changes as well when it comes to rural properties. So with a rural property, you've got all of these other added elements, like maybe you've got a house for the animals, or maybe you've got some crops or a greenhouse or something like that. So you've got to make sure that you understand what's included in the sale. We actually had a recent dispute as to whether or not a room would be part of the sale of a property. This wasn't just, your bedroom that was connected to the house. It was actually an outside room, one of those ones that you can purchase, and it was in the backyard. It wasn't connected to the main home. And the person that was selling the property thought, hey, this is not part of the house. I'm actually going to take it with me to my next house. And the person that was purchasing it thought, hey, that's a proper room. I'm going to be using that. I thought that was what I was purchasing as part of the sale. So there are instances where there can be a bit of confusion as to what is included in the sale. So make sure it's clarified, and more importantly, make sure it's in the contract. The second biggest mistake I see is when people don't do their due diligence checks just before settlement. On the day that you're about to settle, you need to do a pre-settlement inspection, meaning that you need to check the property is in the right condition that you're going to accept it in. So if you're purchasing a property, either you or somebody that you know has to go to the property and do a series of inspections to make sure that the property is in good working order, that everything is as you expect, that there isn't rubbish left behind. And if you don't do that before settlement and you end up settling, then you're stuck with the property as is. Once the money has left the account and the titles have transferred, then the seller's going to say, see you later. I'm not going to deal with the property anymore. It's now your problem. So if there is a big pile of garbage in the backyard and you haven't said anything or done anything about it, then you're going to be stuck with the property. So make sure you do that pre-settlement inspection to make sure the property is in proper working order. The third biggest mistake I see people see is leaving things to the last minute. Now, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to purchasing a property. You've got all of the documents that your lawyers need, all of the documents that your bank needs. And if anything is delayed, then that could potentially delay settlement. And we've had situations where people are in the removal truck, they're about to enter into a property because they think that the property is settling on that day and they're about to move in, but settlement hasn't been able to proceed because a document was submitted late or it wasn't done properly and the bank's got a problem, and everybody starts blaming everyone else and starts pointing the fingers, and the person that's going to suffer is ultimately you because you thought you're going to move in into a particular date and it's not eventuating. So make sure things are done timely. Make sure you're checking in on your lawyers, on your bank, on your broker, making sure that they've done their jobs properly, and so that way you can be prepared when it comes to settlement date. You don't want things to be delayed and for settlement to fall over because you've probably planned everything around this settlement date. It's going to be a big day, so you want to make sure it's all happening and everything is in order. So those are the 3 big mistakes that I see happening when it comes to purchasing a property. Let me know your thoughts. If you've got any questions about purchasing property, please feel free to reach out. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.